Hello my beautiful crafty friends, I'm Katia with Lunar Sun Creations. Welcome to my channel. On this channel I do all kinds of crafty things, from polymer clay to paper arts to acrylic pouring and everything in between. So if you like crafty stuff, you're in the right place. Today I once again teamed up with the wonderful Vectoria Designs, and I'm bringing you a fun project using their Magical Herbology Crafting Kit. So as soon as I saw this paper collection, I fell in love and immediately thought that I should do some kind of recipe book. I like to heal myself naturally, if at all possible. Teas and tinctures, and I use a lot of mushroom medicine and try to use things of the earth to heal myself before I will go to pharmaceuticals. And obviously I am not a doctor and this is not medical advice. This is just what I do. I try to heal myself naturally by what I ingest first. And if that doesn't work, then I will go to the pharmaceutical side of things, but not until then. So yeah, this book is kind of inspired by that, and I plan to write out the recipes for all my teas and tinctures, etc. In the pages of this little book that I've made. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you'll make one for yourself. And this doesn't have to be specifically for that. You can just use it as a normal recipe book or as a journal or whatever the heck you want to use it as, but that's just what I'm doing with it. And while we're here, check out this crazy fallen tree in the background. Oh, I'm gonna put it in the intro as well because the moss growing on the fallen tree branches is just so beautiful. I love it. Love nature. Okay, anyway, let's check out the project. Okay, so this is the project that we'll be making today. It's got an elastic closure, and then when you open it up, I've got a 2-ring binder. You could use a 3-ring as well, as long as the cover part is 6x9. And so each page is the same, so they open out to the side, and then in this pocket you've got a trifold, so that's for the recipe or journaling. And it's just an album that really shows off the papers themselves. So these are definitely large enough to put photos in. You'd have to trim them just a tiny bit on the side, but you can do your 4x6 photos in there if you'd prefer to use it as an album. So you can put as many pages in as your rings will allow. Mine are quite small, so I think I have 6 pages in here. All right, so it's a fairly simple construction, but it is exactly what is needed, especially if you're using it as a recipe book, because you don't want anything to be too, crazy complicated. And this way, if you write the recipes on these bits, you can take this whole thing out and put the rest of it away so it doesn't get mucky with food stuffs. Okay, so let's get our materials ready and we will get this made. Okay, so we'll be working with the Magic Herbology Kit. So it's got some gorgeous imagery. So these are the file folders, a few file folders, and then some kind of bookmark kind of scenarios, and some gorgeous cut aparts. And then a whole bunch of different kinds of ephemera and so many ways that you can use all of these things, some little pockets. And then we've got the full-sized sheets. I'll just kind of go through them quickly because there are a lot of them. I think there's 99 pieces in this kit, and all that imagery, look at all those bottles up there. I just love that. So I immediately thought recipe book when I saw all these herbs and everything. I thought that was a great idea. So yeah, it's a lot of greenhouse kind of imagery and just gorgeous. And then we've got some solids. So that's perfect because you always need a little place for your eye to rest when you've got a lot of busy patterns. And then we've got the journal pages. So there's 3 sizes to the journal pages. This is the largest. There's one that's a little bit smaller than this, and then fairly small ones, and you'll see those in a second. Like, look how gorgeous that is. Okay, so then we've got, I just want to quickly show you the smaller ones. I only printed out a few of the smaller ones because I wasn't sure how much I would be needing them for this project. All right, so let me get my materials ready and then we will get going on this. The materials you'll need, of course you'll need cardstock. I am going to be wrapping my cover in white cardstock, but I'll be creating the rest of the album with black only because I don't have enough of the white. If I had enough of the white, I'd be doing the whole thing in white, but just so you know that. You can do whatever color you desire though. I used about 25 sheets, I believe, in 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Okay, and then you will need either a Tyvek envelope or bookbinder's tape or duct tape. Ideally, Tyvek is the best option, but if you can't find that, then those other options will work. Just a thin, very tear-resistant material. We will need some score tape and or wet adhesive, some scissors, a crocodile or a hole puncher of some kind, a ruler, and your paper trimmer. Now I'll be using a pre-made little binder for the cover, and it's got it's a 2-ring binder. It's 6 inches by 9 inches. I just got this at the dollar store for $1. So I'm sure you can find one at your local dollar store. Most of them have them. It doesn't have to be a 2-ring, it can be a 3-ring, as long as it is, all the measurements that I'm going to give you for this book are based on a 6 by 9 binder though, so just so you know that. And then we will need some magnets. We need 20 of them, I believe. Mine are 10 by 1 millimeter disc magnets. And then you will need your scoreboard with a bone folder and scoring tool. And lastly, not absolutely necessary, but if you would like to, I like to ink the edges of a lot of my pieces of paper and cut aparts and everything with a little bit of distress ink. So that's an option. You don't have to do that. I just like the way it looks. I almost forgot, a tape runner is very, very, very handy for adding all the patterned paper. I don't use it for the construction, but I do use it for adding the pattern paper. So, and lastly, you will need some kind of elastic. These again are just from the dollar store. They're actually hair elastics, but you can use like a spool of elastic as well. Just something, it's just going to go around as a closure for the recipe book. Oakley dokley, I am going to get myself set up and we'll get going. All right, we are going to begin by taking the 2 white 8.5 by 11 pieces and adhering them together so that we can wrap our cover in them. Okay, I'm going to use a combination of score tape and wet adhesive. This is just Elmer's glue. It's just in a smaller bottle because I always buy the really, really big ones. Okay, fabulous. Now I'm going to put adhesive all over the back side of this. Just to make it easy on myself, I'm going to use this huge roll of score tape. It's a 6-inch roll, and it's obviously from scrapbook.com because that's written all over it. It's really good tape though. I actually really like this stuff. I use it a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to remove all the tape, add a little bit of wet adhesive, and then stick it smack down in the middle of my white cardstock. I'm just smoothing it out with my finger, the wet adhesive, so there aren't any big globs that show through. Okay, let's flip this over onto our white here. Now the white is a 65-pound cardstock. I'll put the GSM up on the screen because I don't actually know it offhand. But for the pages, I'll be using an 80-pound, which is a 230 GSM, I believe. That's why I'm not doing the white, because I only had a small amount of the 80-pound and quite a bit of the 65-pound, but I wanted the pages to be stronger than the 65-pound. Okay, so just adding score tape all the way around the perimeter here, and then we're going to wrap it. Okay, so once you've got it all with adhesive on the edges, we're just going to miter the corners. So we're just going to cut in a little bit at an angle until we reach the corner, and then cut out at an angle. Okay, perfect. And now we can fold all of these in. I'm just going to kind of fold them over and give them a little crease just so it's easier to get them to adhere when we have the wet adhesive on. Kind of like almost like training them to go where we want them to go. Okay, so now one side at a time we can remove the backing here. Add some wet adhesive. Okay, and fold it over. Hi, buddy. Okay, and then we're going to do that with all 4 of the sides. Okay, take your bone folder and go over all of the edges. Make sure everything is really smoothed down and adhered. If there's any extra adhesive, get rid of that. Okay, so there is your cover. You can put that aside for now, and we'll work on getting our pages together. Okay, so now we will work on the pages. I am going to be doing 10 pages, but feel free to do as many as will fit in your binder. So these are all 8¼ inches by 9½ inches. I'll put the centimeters up on the screen. So we are going to score each of these on the 9½ inch side. And we're going to score them at 5¼ and 5 3/8. Okay, so everyone is going to get scored in that same way. So 5¼ 5 3/8. Okay, so I'm going to do all 10 of mine and then we will move forward. Okay, so once all of your pieces are scored, you're going to cut 10 pieces of Tyvek, or if you're not using Tyvek, then bookbinder's tape, at 2 inches by 8 inches. Okay, and then put adhesive on the back if they don't already have adhesive on them, like if you're not using tape. And then we are going to adhere these to the end, like the larger end of each of your pieces. Okay, so the bigger half, like on the score lines are here, so bigger half. And then we are just going to lay the paper on top of the Tyvek about halfway and then fold the rest over and smooth it down. So we're doing this because this is the part that's going to be going into the rings of the binder. So we just want that really, really reinforced so that as you move things around in the binder, the holes won't start ripping. This will prevent that. You could also use, I don't have any, but those little ring reinforcements. They're like a circle with another circle, and then you could just put it on around the hole to make it a little bit more secure. I'm gonna try and find what I'm talking about and put a screenshot up because that wasn't a very good description. I used to use them in school a lot, but I haven't seen them in a long time, but I'm sure they still exist. So if you don't have Tyvek, you can do it that way. We're just reinforcing the holes is the point that I'm trying to make. So whatever gets that job done, do that. All right, so I am going to go through and do this to all 10 of my pages here. Okay, so once you have got the Tyvek on all 10 of the pieces, then we are going to crease and fold our score lines. Okay, so use your bone folder and you want to make sure to have a good crease on both of those little lines. I know they're very close together and that can be a bit of a pain, but we do need that gusset to be able to go around the elements that we're putting on the inside of the page. Okay, so I'm going to do that to all my pieces and I'll be back in a minute. So once you have all of your pages with the Tyvek on them and folded and creased, we are going to bring back our cover and we're going to punch holes in all of these pages. So kind of line it up with the rings that you have. So whether it be a 2-ring or 3-ring, you're just going to make a mark in something that you can see where the rings are, so we know where to punch our holes. Okay, and then I'm going to use my crocodile, but use whatever hole punching mechanism you happen to have. Give it a punch where you've got those holes. Okay, and then make sure that it fits right in your binder. Perfection. Okay, and now we can use the holes on this one to punch the holes in the next one, and then you know that they are exactly where they're supposed to be. Okay, so do that to all of your pages. All right, so once everything is punched, put all your pages into your album. Okay, perfect. Make sure everything can flip okay. All right, amazing. So now we can start working on the elements that will be going in our recipe book. Oh, one more note. You probably have noticed already that the cover is fairly tight. That's because we didn't have a space. Like normally when you make a cover, you leave a space in between the spine and the front and the back, just so there's some room for it to maneuver. Because we're covering a pre-made book, it doesn't have that. So eventually it will lay flat, but for right now it is going to probably pop up a little bit, which is part of why we'll be using an elastic closure. Okay, so set this aside for a moment and we're going to get our pieces ready for the interactive elements. So cut 10 pieces of cardstock that are 3 7/8 inches by 9 3/8, and grab your scoreboard. We will be scoring each of these at 1/2 and 5/8 on the 3 7/8 inch side, and then rotate it a quarter turn on your scoreboard and score it 1/2 and 5/8 again, 8 3/4 and 8 7/8. Okay, so that will look, there we go, like that. Okay, so we're going to do that to each of the 10 pieces. You could also go like this and flip it around so that you're just doing 1/2 and 5/8 for every single mark. Okay, so once you have everything scored, we're going to add our score tape to all the 1/2 inch sections here. So all the way around those 3 sides. Okay, perfect. Once you have score tape on all of them, we're going to miter our corners. So I'm going to trim a little bit at an angle off of these 2 corners, and then on the ones where they intersect, go to the inside score line and then angle out. So we're going to angle in until you get to the inside corner where they meet, and then kind of angle the paper and angle out. Try and show that too a little bit closer. Okay, so that's what it should look like. So we're going to do that to all of them. I did do some of them off screen already so that it wouldn't be a 5-hour long video. I'm going to do 2 at a time just because they are the same size, so that should not be a problem. Okay, and then the last one. No, that wasn't very clean. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of all my little bitties, and then I'm going to fold and crease all of these score lines. All right, so this is going to take a few minutes for sure because we've got a lot of little score lines to crease and fold here. All right, so this is what it will look like when it's all folded, and there's like a little gap in there. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do that to all 10 of them. All right, so once you have all 10 of your pieces all folded and scored like that, we are going to add these pockets onto our pages. So for each page, we're just gonna open up this flap and we are gonna add this pocket onto the inside of the flap with the opening right here. Okay, so I've removed the score tape backing from the two short sides first and then the long one. So the bottom part folds up over these two side sections and adheres right in the corner here. Okay, so there's just a tiny bit of overlap. Now I'm going to add just a tiny bit of wet adhesive and then it's going to go down on our page and we will do the same process for all 10 of our pockets. If you want to take them out of the album to adhere them, that's totally fine. Whatever is easiest for you. Okay, there's one. Oh, it's not quite in the right place. Let's move that over a smidge. There we go. Okay, so let's do that for all 10 of them. I find it easier to kind of tilt the book this way. But yeah, like I said, you can take the pages out as well. That will also work. And I'm wondering, I might not be able to keep all 10 of these in here because it is starting to get a little bulky. Might have to go with just 8 instead of 10. We shall see how it looks when they're all in. Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on what size rings you have in the binder that you've gotten. So you might have to change the number of pages depending on how big your rings are. Okay, and this is my last one. Okay, all right, so there are all of our pages. Now I am going to add a set of magnets from the pocket to like the front of your page. Okay, so I'm going to put just a tiny bit of score tape and remove the backing. Put 2 magnets magnetized together onto that score tape, add a little bit more. Okay, and close that up to adhere that magnet. Okay, perfect. And now I'm just going to add a little bit more over top of these, just so they stay in place. And you want to make sure that the placement of your magnet is at least a ½ inch from the edge of your the edge of the pocket. Okay, and then on each one, I'm gonna stagger the place where I put the magnet just a tiny bit, just because I don't want all of the magnets in the exact same spot on the page, because then they'll all kind of want to stick together. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the same process for each page. So you see how this one is just a little bit lower, the other one was about up here. So I'm just going to keep staggering them just so they don't all form one big thing that won't come apart. Well, I mean, it will come apart, but you know. It also staggers the bulk of the album, of the pages. Okay, so just keep doing this process with all of your pages, and then we'll come back and we will get our insert ready for the pocket, and then we can start decorating. Okay, so at this point your album should look like this. Pocket here. Okay, and each of the pages the same. Okay. So now we're going to create some inserts for the pocket. So you need as many pieces of cardstock as you have pages. So I will be using 8. And you need them to be 7 7/8 by 11. And then we're going to grab our scoreboard. And we're going to score each of these at 3 5/8. And 7 3/8. Okay, so like that, and then they're going to fold like this. Okay, and so this is going to be your insert that's going to go in the pocket. Okay, so we'll score all of those. So again, that was 3 5/8, 7 3/8. Okay, so get all of those scored and put into the pockets, and then we'll move on. Okay, so now that we've got our inserts in all of the pockets, now we can start adding our pattern paper. So I would like to have pattern paper on this part here. You can just leave it black if you've used the Tyvek, which is black. Completely up to you, but I'm going to take my pages out and I'm going to add 1 inch of pattern paper to the front and the back, and then repunch the holes in each one. So I think I'm going to alternate. Each page will have, I'll alternate between 2 different pattern papers, I think, is my plan. I think I'm going to go between the brown and the green in this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to cut some strips that are, might go 1 1/4 inches. So 1 1/4 inches by 8 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to cut. So altogether I will need 16 strips, 8 of each color. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so once you've got all your strips cut, I've already put some score tape on the back of them, and we are going to open this up, and we're going to add these pieces onto the Tyvek covered area just to cover up that Tyvek. Alright, so once you have one of the pieces of pattern paper on the edge here, you can either use these holes here on the opposite side as guidelines for punching your new holes in the pattern paper, or you can put the other piece on and then use one of the other pages as your guide to punching new holes. So whichever way you want to do it. I'm going to add just a little bit of wet adhesive as well. just like that. Okay, so this makes it look pretty, but also reinforces these holes even further, which is awesome. Okay, and then just keep going like that until you have all 8 done. So I'm going to do 4 pages in this green color, and then I think I'm going to do the other 4 in this instead of the brown, I decided. I am going to ink all of these pieces, by the way, just so you know. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to just to kind of give them a little bit more of a finished look. That way you can't see the white core of the paper, and it gives it a little bit more of a vintage feel. Okay, and then we're just gonna add these to the pages in the same manner that we did those other green ones. Okay, so now it is time to decorate our album. So we've got this little bit of paper on each of these covering the Tyvek, right? So I did 1 page just to kind of suss it out and see what I was gonna do. I have put paper on each one of the pocket inserts. So this is where you would write the actual recipe. So I've put that on each one of them. It has created a little bit extra bulk just because I used black cardstock and then this. So if you've used white cardstock or craft or some kind of light color, you won't need to add the extra paper. So yours won't be quite as bulky. I've had to take a couple pages out because I didn't want it to be super bulky. But if you used a light color, then a lot of the places you won't need to add anything. You can just leave it blank for somewhere to write. So just to keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm gonna do it this way. So when you're looking at it at the front, I'm gonna use the journaling cards. And then I'd like to do some just solid paper, or like one of the more solid papers like these ones here, you know, on the pocket, and then have just that a little whatever you cut off of these journaling cards can go into the pocket. And then on the pocket we can use some of the cute little ephemera and stuff afterwards. So that's my plan for each page. So I'm just gonna start decorating it, and we'll see how we go. So for matting things, you literally just want to take the area that you want to mat and just cut things a little bit smaller. So on the front part, you'd be cutting something that is like 3 7/8 by 8. And then it would be the same on this part here, just a tiny bit smaller, like 3 3/4 by 8. So just measure the area that you want to cover, and then just go, you know, a 1/4 inch smaller width-wise and height-wise. Okay, so I'm gonna get some of my papers on, and then we'll come back and we'll do the covers and add the closure and everything like that. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I'll put the last few pieces on with you here. What do we got? I forget what I was doing. That was there. Yeah, okay, so got my vintage photo ink here. So I'm just gonna ink up the edges. I think I did that one. Did I do all of them? I haven't done this one yet. Deciding what papers to use definitely is what takes the longest. So I don't show all of it because then it would be like a 5-hour video and you just watch me auditioning different papers. That's kind of like the creative process for yourself because there's so many gorgeous papers and it's really hard to choose. So, and everyone has like a slightly different aesthetic of what they like to go together and such. So if you don't have an ATG like I'm using here, you can just use wet adhesive or score tape. Score tape would be better because the wet adhesive, sometimes it can leave little kind of bubbles of, unless you smooth it out with your finger. So in the pocket, you want the piece that goes into the pocket to go in at least half an inch into the pocket, and it will help to keep the pocket down too because it's going to go over the little like half-inch flaps that are there. Okay, I'm going to put that there. So once we put these last few pieces on, then we will work on the cover and the closure for the book. Now if you don't have elastic, because I'm going to do an elastic closure, it's just an elastic from the dollar store, so it's nothing fancy. But if you don't want to do it that way, you can just do a ribbon closure, like put a little bit of ribbon on the front and the back. And I will kind of go through how to do that as an alternative. Okay. All right, so, oh, I didn't ink this one. Like I said, it's not the end of the world if you do forget to ink one or two. It's just it's just for aesthetics. Okay, so I'll just quickly kind of go through what I've got here. Let me bring in just a little bit and I'll kind of go through it. Okay, I'll just go kind of slowly. So all of the inserts just have this simple paper on it. Like none of them have any fancy paper. They're all just very simple because I wanted there to be places where you could write the actual recipes. You can write recipe bits here and here as well, but I wanted to leave as much space for writing as possible. Okay, so that is that. So now I'm going to put some, just to kind of make it cohesive with the black pages, I'm going to put black cardstock on the front and the back and then add some pattern paper, and then we'll put our closure on. Okay, so this is the back of the album. Okay, I haven't got anything on the inside yet. I am going to put this piece of paper here. It's not quite big enough, but I'm going to fix that later on. If you are doing a ribbon closure instead of an elastic closure, just put a piece of score tape along the center or a bead of glue, add your ribbon there, and then put your pattern paper on. And that's all there is to that. For the elastic closure, so I decided that it was too loose, so I've just kind of folded over the elastic a little bit and then wrapped some double-sided tape around it. Ideally, I would love to have a thinner elastic, but I don't have that, so that's fine. We're gonna deal with this. You make do with what you have. Okay, so I am going to put my piece of paper on and then we will add that elastic. Okay, so let's get our elastic on. Just don't mind Zuri's tail. He's not wanting to move, so just gonna leave him there. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that right about there, about 1.5 inches in or so, something like that. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of score tape over top of that. You know what, I might actually add a little bit of wet adhesive as well. Let's just make this as secure as possible. Okay. Now there is going to be a bit of a bulge there, and I mean, if you're not okay with that, then, you know, maybe you want to do a different kind of closure, but I am okay with this, so we're going to go with it. And now I've taken one of the little ephemera cut aparts and backed it on some chipboard, and I'm just going to bend it just a little bit because it is going to go over top of this. So I'm going to add both score tape and wet adhesive to this. And if you have a way to punch holes and put some long brads in, that would be also awesome to have that additional layer of security. All of my brads are quite small, so they won't go through the thickness that this is. They won't make it all the way through, so I won't be doing that. But if you do have some really long brads, like with the long tines, then that would be perfection. Okay, so there we go. So we're just going to put this on here to cover it up and press it down. I'm probably going to add some like clips or something to this just to kind of keep it in place while it's drying. Okay, so once this part is like secure and on there, we can work on our cover. On the inside, front and back covers, I'm going to add some black just to kind of tie in the black of the pages, and then one of the journaling pages. I'm going to leave the back for now though, because I would still like to get some long brads because it would really help to make this more secure, and I would like to make it as secure as possible. So I'm gonna wait and go to the dollar store and get some long tined brads, and it works fine. It's great, but I want to make sure that it's going to last the test of time, so I am going to put some brads there. But for now, we are going to put on our cover. So I've got some black cardstock on there first, and then I'm going to put this here in the center. And I'm going to kind of do a little bit of paper piecing because the journaling pages, like they're not quite tall enough for the cover. So I'm just going to add some like border strips and stuff to kind of make it all work. So this is going to go in the middle. Okay, and then I've got some cut off ends from some of the pieces that I cut apart earlier. And these are going to go at the top and the bottom. Just like that. And then there was a few different sayings at the bottom of some of the pages. So this one I cut apart, and I'm going to kind of, I've backed it on both white and black, and I'm going to kind of just do something like that, just to, you know, have something else on the cover. So yeah, I think like that is my plan. You can make the cover as fancy or as simple as you like, because there are a lot of options for little bits and pieces of things that you can use, for sure. In fact, right after I finish this cover part, I'm going to spend some time fussy cutting some of the ephemera and just kind of using it in different areas throughout the album. It's kind of like the finishing touches. Okay, just like that. Oh, I think it's so pretty. Perfect. So that is our little album slash recipe book. So you can add as much or as little extras as you like. I am going to put a few pieces of the ephemera in because they're just too pretty not to add. And there she is. And I think it's super cute and I absolutely love it. So decorate to your heart's content. And I think I'm going to show you one more little thing that you could do with these papers I thought would be really cute. So hang on, let me just get some things sorted here. Okay, so for this little bonus project, I'm just going to use a mason jar from the dollar store and a little bit of like a hemp cord, and then one of the ephemera cut aparts that I really, really love. This is one of my favorite ones. And then I've got a little bit of Mod Podge. So I'm just going to do a really, really simple Mod Podge little like a decoupage kind of thing on the jar. So I mean, my thought was that you could put dried herbs or whatever in the jar and have like a whole bunch of them with like the really gorgeous images on them. Have them all on a shelf like they have here. I love that look and I think it's so awesome. So I thought, why not? Why not add this little extra bit? So our first step is going to be, well, obviously cutting it out. And then after you've cut it out, depending on what paper you've printed things on, you might need to make your paper a little bit thinner. So I've got mine printed out on an 85-pound cardstock. So in order to decoupage it and have it really stay nicely, I'm going to have to make mine a little bit thinner. So I'm going to show you an easy way to do that. If you have masking tape, putting masking tape on the back and then ripping it off will take off a layer of paper but keep the image intact. I don't happen to have any masking tape on hand, so the next best thing is to take a spray bottle of water and you're going to spray like a fine mist of water. You don't want there to be a lot of water on here. Just, I don't know if you can see that. It's just like a sheen of water. Let it soak in just a bit and then just start doing this with your finger until the paper starts pilling. And you'll be able to kind of just roll off the back layer of the cardstock and make it thinner. It does take a little bit of time and patience, and you want to make sure that you don't roll paper off all the way to the actual image itself, but you'll be able to tell how much you're taking off. Yeah, this is coming off beautifully. It's like kind of rolling off in big pieces. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell how much thinner that is, but it's much, much thinner now. Now it's like kind of copy paper not consistency, like copy paper thickness. Okay, so really quite thin. So I'm gonna get all of this out of the way. I'm going to use a paintbrush and just apply some Mod Podge to the back of this. Oh, that was far more than I needed. Okay, so I'm going to cover the whole back of the image that I want to adhere down. If you don't have Mod Podge, you can use watered down school glue in a pinch. Okay, so now I'm going to put this onto my jar. I want to kind of make sure that it is centered where I want it to be. Okay, and then I'm just going to do another layer of the Mod Podge over top of the image to seal it on there. Just going to add a little bit more. Now, if you wanted to, you could paint your jar first. You could do this a lot fancier than I'm doing it. I'm doing a very, very basic decoupage. But yeah, you can paint it. You can add a layer of like tissue paper first. Like there's so many cool things that you can do, but I just wanted it to be a clear jar still because I wanted to be able to see the herbs that are inside it. Okay, so just like that. On the lid itself, so on this part, I'm going to add some glue around the edge and wrap some twine around it. On the other part of the lid, I've just decoupaged another one of the cut aparts. Okay, the Mod Podge will actually work as well for this. You could use glue or Mod Podge, either one. So yeah, so I'm just going to brush it around the rim here. Want to make sure that none of it gets inside so the jar will still open properly. Okay, and I'm just going to start at the bottom and I'm just going to wrap it around and just keep going around with my twine until the whole outside bit is covered. And then you want to add another layer of Mod Podge or some kind of sealant over top of this so that it stays in place. Trying to decide if I should go on the top as well. I think I might. Okay, just gonna get all of this glued down first. And the Mod Podge will dry clear, as will like the craft glue. It'll dry clear, so no worries there. Oh, super cute. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little bit to the top, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like when it's all dry. Okay, so here it is dry. Sorry, it's starting to get pretty. Here it is all dry. Really simple, but super, super cute. So just imagine a whole bunch of these with different herbs and stuff inside them, or even, you know, rice and beans and that kind of thing. Just a pretty way to spice up your mason jars. No pun intended. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you will check out Vectoria Designs papers and design something with them, because so many of them are so beautiful. If you are watching this on the Vectoria Designs channel, please consider going over to my channel as well, Lunar Sun Creations, and giving this video a like over there, and perhaps even subscribing. It really helps a girl out, you know. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will see you again very, very soon, my friends. Big hugs to you. Bye.